All right, peace and greetings, YouTubers. So welcome to another edition of In the News. Let's jump right into it. I'm going to start out with the lighter stories, work my way up to the heavier stuff, just for the sake of my sanity and yours, as well as my blood pressure. Making the Band is making a comeback. Now, if you remember, Making the Band was this show that aired in the early 2000s, and it pretty much showcased the journey of people who had aspirations of being in the music industry as performers. So folks who wanted to audition for like a girl group or a boy band or an R&B group or a rap group, this was a show for them. And so you'd see them audition for the show, you'd see them make the band, and then the next season would be the artist development, which is something you don't really see in 2019 anymore. Artist development as far as making sure that before you put the artist out there, they're ready to actually be an artist. You know, today it's like you sign your record deal and they already got you shooting a music video and booking an award show in the same week. And it's like, you don't even know how to perform yet, but they done put you on the Grammy stage. Okay, I guess. You know, that's music in 2019, but it would show all of that and, you know, the tears and the blood and the sweat, and they couldn't learn the choreography fast enough, and they had to learn how to blend, and they, you know, it was all of that they would show, and then it would lead up to the release of the album by the end of the season, and if they made it to another season, then it was the tour, and it was the group fighting, and this person don't like that person, and it was a really interesting show. It launched the careers of a lot of acts. So it launched the careers of like the band, if you remember them. That was the rap group. They fought a lot on that show, but that was my favorite season. It was the band. You remember Danity Kane, which ended up being one of the more successful acts out of the franchise, Day 26. And then there was Old Town. Old Town was the first one. A lot of people forgot about that season, but to me, Old Town was funny because they were kind of the corny group. Mainly because they were the pop group. You know, they were managed by Lou Pearlman. And speaking of Lou Pearlman, if you have YouTube Red or whatever the streaming service is for YouTube, there's a great documentary that goes behind the scenes of just Lou Pearlman and how he pretty much stole all the money from like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and all the other acts that he worked with back in the day. It's a great watch for those who just like insight on music industry, politics, and everything like that. But anyway, Old Town was funny because they came out in that era when all of the super bubblegum pop artists were working to be a little bit more edgy at the time. We've talked about this in my R&B is Dead series, but I talked about how pop music works in waves, and a lot of times the first wave is like everybody's super bubblegum, super poppy marketing for the teen girls at the mall who are going to scream, and you know, you get the teen heartthrob and all of that, and all their songs are going to play in all the teen romantic comedies, and they're just everywhere. And then the wave changes as far as what the music is doing, and the trends are shifting, and they don't know what to do, so they always hop on what the black folks are doing, and so they try to edge it up and spice it up a bit and just give everybody a little bit more kick. So you saw it with New Kids on the Block, who were one of the biggest acts out in the late 80s, early 90s, and then that wave happened, and they couldn't do the same thing they were doing before, so they had to be a little bit more edgy. I don't like the word urban, so I'm gonna say edgy, and it didn't work out for them as well. They came out with this R&B album and nobody cared. Because really at the time, by the time they came out with it, you had Boyz II Men and Jodeci and all these really great acts doing everything. So New Kids on the Block kind of got pushed out for a while, even though they're touring these days. But then you saw that same wave happen again. Then you saw like the Britney and the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and Christina and all of them emerge, and they were all super bubblegum and the kids loved them, but then they kept getting older and you had to figure out how to keep marketing them. And so they're like, oh, we got to spice it up. Add some more spice. So Old Town came out during the Spice It Up era. They never got to be the bubblegum heartthrob. So when you listen to the album that they have, it's the funniest thing to witness because it's like these white boys and this one guy that's racially ambiguous in the group. And then they had this song called Sexiest Woman Alive. And the lyrics, I'm like, who wrote this? There's a line in one of the songs where it's like, gotta work it like a dancer on Soul Train. I'm like, okay, all right. And it doesn't help that, all right, like I don't even remember where they were from, but I was like, work it like a dancer on Soul Train. And they had this other song where they were shouting out all the black women they liked. So there was like the I Dream About a Girl Who's a Mix of Destiny's Child. And it was something, I don't know the rest of it. But then with Janet Jackson Smile. I was like, okay. All right, I don't know who's on your A&R team, but I guess. But that was the funniest group to watch to me. It cracked me up. Making the Band used to be my show. I know I'm ranting, but it's been 2-3 weeks since we had a video, so I get the rant. Yeah, but Making the Band, I just remember watching as a teenager, you know, pretty much we'd all be on three-way. And this is like when you still had, like, everybody didn't have broadband yet. So you could either be on the phone or the internet, one or the other. So you'd be on like three-way and then somebody else with three-way, and it'd be like 10 or 15 of y'all from school all watching Making the Band. We would do it, I think Making the Band came on like Thursdays or something. And we did that for like the season with the band and the season with Danity Kane. Like we'd be on three-way, it'd be like 15 of us. Then somebody's mom would need the internet or need the line and somebody got to hang up. And then you'd lose like 3 people on the call and you couldn't figure out how to get it all 20 people back on the call. Hot mess. But going back to the main topic, you actually can audition for Making the Band. They have an open casting call that runs until August 31st. All you need to do is you have to download the Smule app. It's like SMULE SMULE. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, because y'all know some of these things always have, watch it be something called like Smule or something, I don't even know. But download the app, SMULE. You're going to click the Making the Band banner, and then they have a list of songs for you to choose from within specific genres and categories. And then from there, you pretty much record yourself singing the song, and then you're going to upload it to your social media and use the hashtag MTBcasting, and hopefully they give you a call back, which is pretty cool, you know, because back in the day, for a lot of people, they had to stand at some corner in Manhattan for 11 hours waiting in line to audition, and then they get there and the folks are like, oh, we ran out of time, or oh, we already picked everybody, sorry. So yeah, it's kind of cool that social media allows you to do that. Now I will say, this is Diddy's project, and listen, I respect Diddy, and I think he's launched many careers. However, you know, if you sign with Diddy, if you make it, you got about 11 months of success, so you better have a game plan after them 11 months, because ain't no telling what happens. That was my beef with Diddy. He stayed getting rid of all the groups. The band he disbanded. I'm disbanding the band, and now I'm only going to keep Babs, and I'm going to keep Ness. They're going to be the Bonnie and Clyde of hip-hop. Then we never saw them again. And then Danny D. Kane, I forgot who he kicked. I think he kicked Aubrey out of the group, and then D. Woods was like, what you doing? He's like, oh, you don't like it? You get out the group too. And then that group was done. So you got 11 months to make it happen. Anyway, that's funny. Moving on. By the way, I got a chance to see this documentary, and if it's still available in your city, go see it. It's the Toni Morrison documentary, and it is called The Pieces I Am. It's a really great watch. Like, it was so good, I went and got all of Toni Morrison's books on Audible just because I wanted to hear her read it to me. I could have got the hard versions or the hard copies, but I wanted to hear her read it with the essence of Toni Morrison. It's a great watch, so definitely check that out if you get a chance. And then I finally went and I saw Lion King. It was all right. I remember, like, if you watched my last live video, I was talking about how I was nervous because I saw that trailer. And it just looked a little weird because they had a really hard time getting the animals to come off as animated and whimsical because, you know, it's CGI and they tried to make the animals look as real as possible. So there's not really a way to make it look like the cartoon as far as the mouths and everything moving. And so it's funny because I feel like the producers and everybody knew a lot of people were going to have a lot to say, because if you go back and you remember those first 2 or 3 trailers, they would never show the animals talking. They would just show the sun rising, you know, the animals running, water, rain, fire, but they would not show anybody giving any dialogue. Then that first trailer came out and everybody was like, wait, I don't know how this is going to go. All right. But, you know, I saw it was actually okay. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad either. It was just something that was there. It's like one of those movies I'll probably never watch again. And I guess the hard part about it is that whimsical aspect is not there. And it comes off so dark. You know, it didn't even feel like I was sitting in a kid's movie. I was like, dang, this is dark. And then the worst part, if you remember, I initially talked about how I was excited that they had, you know, The Lion King coming out. I don't remember which In the News video it was, but I was like, oh, I'm excited. And I said the only thing I want them to make sure they don't mess up is the scene with Ed laughing. Like, Ed was my favorite character in the original one. That's the hyena. His laugh was just hilarious to me. And so I was waiting for that scene where, you know, Mufasa then went and laid out all the hyenas, so then they're talking trash about him in the next scene, and the other hyenas are laughing at the one that got beat up. They took the whole scene out. I was like, it's not even in here? And then, I'm not even going to talk about the song Be Prepared. I was pissed off with that. That was my favorite song from the original one. Well, I guess you could say the original one presented to us in America, because, you know, everybody's talking about Kimba the Lion right now and how they stole that from Japan. But, you know, Be Prepared was my song, and I thought they were going to, like, come and bring that out because I wanted to see how they would redo it for the movie with the big drums and everything. But nah, I don't know what that was. I was ready for the, you know, the kiss of denial. Dun, 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 dun. None of that. It's okay, though. The movie was all right. You know, it is what it is. The one part I did like, I thought the graphics and stuff looked cool, but it was just okay. It's not something I was pressed about. It's like all the movies I was excited about seeing didn't do much for me. Toy Story 4 didn't do much either. I know y'all are like, why are you talking about these kid movies? But I work with kids, so I still end up seeing these movies anyway. But, you know, I guess. Moving right along. Some of you were asking me on social media my thoughts about Monique and everything that's been going on with her calling out, you know, Oprah and everything. And really my response, because we've talked about Monique a few times on this channel. We've talked about the Lee Daniels stuff. We talked about the Oprah stuff. We talked about the Tyler Perry stuff. We talked about even the stuff with her and Steve Harvey. For me, I guess at this point, The only thing I could suggest for somebody like Monique is I think she should take a page out of Vivica A. Fox's book. Like Vivica, as Hollywood started pushing her out for whatever various reasons, Vivica was like, okay, I'm gonna be my own boss. And so Vivica went and she started her own production company. She started releasing a bunch of, movie specials and DVD projects and everything like that. She has the wig line. I think she's still hosting a talk show. She recently just came out with a book. And with Vivica, she may not be pulling in the big giant Hollywood checks that she was once bringing in, but I feel like she's living very well. And she's happy because she doesn't have to answer to anybody. And I think that's the lane Monique should go into as well. Mainly because now that, Monique has laid it out there, and there are some bridges that are burned, and I don't think that's the end of her career or anything, because people always can make a comeback. But I think for her, for the happiness that she's searching for, she's not going to get it until she's her own boss and she doesn't have to ask anybody for anything. And so I think that's the lane that she should go in, because she has enough of a fan base that will support her. And I guess she's been doing that with her own comedy. I know she has the residency in Vegas with the comedy shows, and she's been touring. But I would say that would be the lane I would go in if I was in Monique's shoes. I would kind of just do it my own way at this point. Clearly, Hollywood has shown her where they put her and how they see her and how they value her. And if she's not happy with that result, it's kind of like, you know what, I can do this myself. And so that's where I place somebody like Monique. And then this next story is kind of getting some mixed responses. Some people are really happy and ecstatic and think it's the coolest thing ever. Then there's some people who are kind of like, I don't know how to feel about this. I can't take this seriously. And that's the fact that Lil Nas X now has the longest running #1 single of all time on the Hot 100 chart. Old Town Road has now been #1 for 17 weeks. This means that he has also broken the record that Mariah Carey and Boyz II Men held with One Sweet Day, because their song had been #1 for 16 weeks. The way that I look at it, one, I would definitely say congrats to him. That's a huge accomplishment, because that's something most artists are not going to experience. Let alone, most artists who come out don't even get to experience being #1. Let alone being #1 for multiple weeks. Let alone being #1 long enough to the point where you're breaking records for how long you've been #1. That's an awesome accomplishment to have. Not many people have that accomplishment. And the way that I look at it, for Mariah Carey and Boyz II Men fans who are disappointed, you have to think, like, they held that record for 24 years. That's something most artists are not going to experience. So at the end of the day, when you look in the history books, both songs, when you look at the lane they were in and the purpose that they served their purpose, and both songs will be remembered rightfully so. And the other bit is, again, music is subjective, and people are going to be into what they're into. So even if you didn't like the song, if you couldn't take it seriously, or you thought it was a joke, you can't deny the impact it's made. You hear it everywhere. Like, this is, I used to say in my R&B is Dead series, I miss the days of when a #1 song actually felt like it was a #1 song, like you actually knew it. Because as the digital era started, and even with streaming today, there's a lot of songs that are #1 and you've never even heard them before. This kind of reminds me of times like before the digital era, like especially the 90s, like when there was a #1 song, even if it wasn't in the genre of music you listened to, it was just everywhere. Like I remember when Alanis Morissette dropped Jagged Little Pill. Even though I didn't listen to rock music like that at the time, I knew all of the singles from that album because you heard it everywhere. You hear the song in the grocery store, you hear it at the gas station, the kids would do the song at the talent show, you'd hear it on the TV commercial, like it was just everywhere. And so that's kind of pretty much what I see. And again, you also have to remember that the industry structure has shifted and changed. I think historians and Billboard definitely should document the fact that, the rules have changed multiple times when it comes to what's required to get a #1 single. There were a lot of songs in the 80s and 90s that were #1 on the radio airplay charts, but could not chart on the Hot 100 because they weren't eligible. Back in the day, a lot of artists and the labels, when artists would come out with an album and they, release their singles and everything like that, sometimes the labels didn't know if the next single would catch on, so they would release radio promo only singles, meaning the song would go to radio, and sometimes the song would catch on, sometimes it didn't. But a lot of the songs that would catch on, there would be some songs that were #1 on radio play, but because the label never released the physical single for the public to purchase, the song was not eligible to chart on the Hot 100. So there were a lot of songs that could have been top 5 on the Hot 100, but they couldn't chart because they weren't eligible. And so, I think stuff like that should be marked down in history just so people understand, like, the rules of how to chart on the Hot 100 have shifted since Mariah Carey and Boyz II Men. Back then, it was all about physical sales of that single and radio play, and it was the balance of which carried more weight. Today, people are not really physically buying albums anymore, even let alone digitally as far as purchasing on iTunes. It's slowed down a lot. Streaming is everything. So today, when it comes to how to chart on the Hot 100, there's a bunch of elements. It's radio play, it's streams, it's physical sales, it's digital sales, it's even merchandising, it's ringtones. It's like 50,000 things put together. So, the threshold has changed as to what the requirements are. So I definitely would hope historians and people in Billboard kind of write that down. And we talked about that when I went live, and I talked about streaming versus digital versus physical, and how that's why you're seeing so many records from back then get broken so easily, because, right now it's currently easier if you have enough social media pull. But, I wouldn't look at it as a bad thing, because, again, like I said, music is subjective, and people are going to be into what they're into. An example I could think of that I think is hilarious. Yeah, I know I like Janet, so I always got the facts on all of her career. So remember Janet Jackson came out with the song Together Again, and it was this really, really huge smash, especially internationally. It was this big dance hit. It sold like 6 or 7 million copies alone, just the song. This was physical, and people were not selling physical singles like that back in the day. You get lucky to sell 500,000, maybe 1 million copies of a single. If you sold more than 2 or 3 million copies of a physical single, you had an international smash. So anyway, this song was number one everywhere, in the United States, all over Europe, Asia, in Africa, in South Africa, it was number one. But the one place it could not go to number one was the UK. It stayed at number 2. And the only reason it was number 2, guess who stopped Janet from getting her only number, because she's never had a number 1 single in the UK. Guess what stopped her from getting to number 1 in the UK? The Teletubbies. Yes, the Teletubbies. I don't know. You remember the show with the red and the purple and the yellow and the red? I don't know if they were aliens or what they were. But hey, they had a song called Ayo that came out at the end of 97, and it was number 1 for 2 weeks. And so the one time Janet had that opportunity to get to number 1, she was almost there. Teletubbies said, nope, I think not. And I know Janet had to be pissed. Look, Janet went all the way to South Africa to shoot this video. I mean, she was out there, and they had giraffes and cheetahs and stuff running. She's trying to do an 8 count and not get bit by the lion. And she did all that. And look who she lost to. Teletubbies. So hey, music is what it is. Things are subjective. People are going to support what they're into, and it is what it is. Everything works in waves. So good for him. Now, I will say, because look, he's milking this song. He got about 856,000 remixes of this song. My biggest thing to him is make sure you have a strategy to maintain your success. Otherwise, I might have to give you the making the band speech about 11 months. Okay? 11 months. What's the next move? But we'll see what happens. By the way, like I said, I thought his EP was interesting. I like that he played with a bunch of different genres. He's not really my type of artist, but I respect what's happened. Plus, the politics alone behind it is why I support everything that's happened to him. See what happens when you're racist? Look what happened. Y'all tried to kick the boy off the charts. Now look what happened. How you like him now? Anyway, so this next story, it's not actually like a news story, but I saw it trending on Twitter. I just want to see where you all stand on it. The user Snickolette posted, "Did y'all just hear 93.3? High school senior asked the radio, should he stay home and help his mom raise his siblings or go off to TSU? I think that's Tennessee State University. His mom told him he is selfish if he goes off to school and leaves her alone with the kids." I hate when parents do that. As somebody who works with teenagers and has to go through this all the time and have meetings with parents and try to talk some people off the ledge about a few things, this is one of the most draining things to always witness, because when parents do that to their child, because this is still a child, 17, 18 to me, you're still a child, I'm sorry. I mean, when I was 18, I thought I was grown and knew the world, but looking back, I was still a child. When parents put that kind of pressure on their child to make such a tough decision, like you're chipping away at what's left of their youthful mentality. And when I say youthful mentality is what we all have before the world screws us over. You know what I mean? When you're 15, 16, 17, if you think back to how you felt if you were fortunate to have that experience, you have all of these dreams and aspirations. When you're 15, 16, 17, you're going to go and do this, you're going to do that, you're going to do all these great things. I always tell my teenagers, when they're talking about what it is they want to do in life, I always tell them they're not allowed to use the word just. Because if you're just going to do something, that means you're settling already. You're not even doing what it was you really wanted to do. You shouldn't be thinking about just doing anything until you've lived a little bit, until you had the opportunity to do trial and error, And so, when you're 15, 16, I want to hear that you want to go and start a record label, or you want to be the first person on the moon, or not the first person, clearly, but maybe the first person on Mars, or you want to start this kind of business here, or you want to study whales in Nova Scotia. That's the energy I would like to hear from people who are that age. So when somebody's 17 and they've applied to school, and I'm looking at this mom like, okay, so the mom in this tweet we read about, she has at least known that her child wanted to go to college, at least since January, because that's usually towards the end of application season. Mom has known for at least 6 or 7 months that the child wanted to go off to school. And so for me, I feel like mom should have already been kind of prepping on how she was going to be able to make sure she would be supported. I don't know her situation. I don't know if maybe the father passed away or maybe the mom was disabled. I don't know what the situation is, so I'm not going to judge. But, I just don't think it's fair to put that kind of pressure on somebody who's ready to start their life, who's ready to go out and explore. And when you strip that from them, they hold that against you forever. They're not going to forget that. So, that's just my opinion. And again, there are some siblings who do make those choices. Maybe the parent's disabled and they want to stay home and take care. It's beautiful. But, I just feel like with that mom, there's so many options. Maybe, I don't know if they live in the area and TSU's too far. Maybe she just wants the child to be a little bit closer and she's more so afraid that the child's not going to do well being so far away. I don't know the situation. But I think it's jacked when you put that kind of pressure on kids. And this is exactly what's going to happen with that student if that student chooses to stay home and babysit. What's going to happen is they're going to grow up to resent the kids or the siblings. And it's like a double-edged sword, because if the younger siblings amount to something great because the older sibling did such a great job with them, that older sibling may still resent them because the younger siblings get to go off and do what it was they wanted to do, but that sibling didn't get to do it. Or, on the flip side, if those younger siblings amount to just be terrible people and never amounted to anything, that older sibling is like, I wasted my prime babysitting y'all and doing all this, and I have nothing to show for it. So, and then they got to go on the Iyanla show. Iyanla, we talk about her because she got them folks doing all kind of crazy stuff on her show. Last time I watched it, she had somebody laying in the ground talking to a hole, talking about, put your mouth over that hole, speaking to that hole. Like, hot mess. So now this kid's going to have to go on there, and I don't know what Iyanla have them do. She'll probably make the mama get in the refrigerator or something, step inside that refrigerator. I'm going to close the door. I want you to feel how cold it is. That's how you've been to your children. You feel the cold. And see, I'm going to slightly open the fridge. You see, I've opened the fridge, and there was that warmth that came in, but you closed it before it could get to your heart. You closed the fridge before it could get to your heart. And you know what you are? You are French fries in the fridge. People don't want cold fries. They want them hot. Y'all be doing whatever she be doing. But, hopefully that kid, he does he or she does what's in their heart to do. I just... Remember we did that in the news episode, and there was that student athlete, and he had a choice between the colleges because they were all fighting for him, and he wanted to go to one school. His mom wanted him to go to a different one. He chose the school he wanted to go to, and then the mom got pissed off and stormed off and walked out, and now he's at the press conference crying. And the mom came back and was like, okay, I still love you. But, in moments like that, you got to let your child, make their own decisions. Even if you don't agree, let them make their mistake and learn the hard way if you think it's not the best decision. But I just don't think it would be fair to put that kind of burden on a child. Because to me, I'm sorry, a 17-year-old, you're still a kid to me. You are a child. And, you have the world at your feet, and you have all these dreams and all these things you want to do. And it would not be fair to give all that up to babysit and watch your siblings and all. I do believe that older siblings do have that responsibility when they live in the house, when they're 17 and maybe, because that was my experience. I was 7 years older than my younger brother. So there would be some days where maybe my parents were working late or they're out late and it was my job to cook dinner or something like that. I understand that, but there was never going to be a conversation of, oh, well, you can't go to Howard now because you need to stay home and watch your brother. That wasn't going to happen at all. So we'll see what happens with that. Then I guess I got to talk about Donald Trump. He's catching a lot of flack because a lot of people are pissed off with what he said about Representative Elijah Cummings. And, Donald Trump made these statements about, if Elijah Cummings would take care of his district, because, his district is Baltimore. And he went on this rant about how Baltimore is rodent infested. And, there's all these problems there. Nobody would want to live there. And people are pissed off because lately Donald Trump has really been attacking a bunch of black folks and a bunch of folks who are in the Latino community and those who are from East Africa as far as Somalia and everything like that, just making all these statements about all kind of public figures who come from various backgrounds. And so people are really pissed off. And my response to all of it is, at this point, every day Donald Trump does something that's out of pocket. And it's so interesting to watch because when it comes to calling out racism with Donald Trump, there's so many people who just refuse to even give him that title. And so the threshold of what is racist always gets moved in regards to Donald Trump. It's only for him though. Other folks can do all these kind of crazy things, and and folks will throw the book at that person, and that person loses their job. It's always interesting on Twitter where when somebody will post something racist, and then people find their job and call the job and say, hey, this person said I look like a monkey, and my mother should have been lynched, and my daddy should have been castrated, and I come from slavery, and I'm poor, and I'm a bushwick, whatever. And then next thing you know, that company have a tweet, so-and-so no longer works here, handled just like that. But Donald Trump, oh no, they move the bar for him. The bar just moves. No matter what he says, they're going to find a way to take the racism out of it. And the problem is, in both sides of American politics, when you're talking about the two major parties, there's a bunch of people who are too scary to really call things out. The most interesting thing I saw was that interview with Cory Booker. This is probably why he's at the bottom of the polls. They were asking him, like, do you think Donald Trump is racist? And he tried to give this kumbaya, we are the world answer, where he's like, I can't say. I'm like, you know what? You in the way. Move. You can drop out now. We don't need you. You're in the way. Goodbye. I don't have time. And the thing is, the part that makes it suck even more is even if he is racist and we can accept that he's racist, it's not like anybody's doing anything about it. It's not like the people who are in charge and the people who we've all elected are holding his feet to the fire. Why? Because that's how whiteness in America works. It can be coddled and protected. Like, America is built on racism. That's what keeps our economy going. That's what's kept our economy going globally. Like, it's the system that's in place, and it's backed and it's endorsed. And what you're seeing people protect that element of whiteness. And when I say whiteness, because somebody's going to take this the wrong way and think I'm just saying white people. When I say whiteness, I'm talking about that system that exists as long as people who belong in the white demographic, because this is the demographic that has pretty much reaped all of the benefits of generational wealth and residual wealth that came from slavery and oppression and sharecropping and everything, and any kind of element of turmoil that went around the world and shook the table in various places all around the world. That element of whiteness there's a system in play that benefits. We know that, all right? But the thing is, it doesn't benefit everybody who's white. It's really just the top half, or the top percent, you know what I mean? And that top percent uses the element of racism to make the working class white Americans and middle class white Americans who feel that they belong in that top 1% and feel that they are a part of the same class as somebody like a Donald Trump. It makes them go against everybody else in their same caliber when it comes to the socioeconomic bubble that they're in, because they feel that because these other people are around, whether they're black or Latino or Asian or anything that's not white, they're the reason why that these people are not rich. And so they hold on to that. So the rich has constantly manipulated the working class and middle class white Americans to always think that everything wrong with America has to do with, the attacks that are on whiteness. And so now you're seeing whiteness be protected at all costs. That's why you're seeing all of these really extreme racist things take place and nothing happens. Like, the funniest bit is that clip with the lady who called the women the N-words at the restaurant, and then she went on camera and was like, yeah, I'll say it again. I stood by it. Like, yeah, that's what they're acting like. They provoked me to say it. And 10 years ago, she would have been on the promotional trail, and she would have went to a black church and sang Amazing Grace, and she would have ate some collard greens at Sylvia's in Harlem. Like, it's a different day, a different age, and so that's what you're seeing. And the bit that gets me, like, because this is one hashtagging society. You saw, whites against racism start trending. I'm like, okay, that's nice, that's cute, but I want to see, like, what's going to happen at the polls. What's going to happen with what you endorse? Who are the candidates that you're supporting? Who's the sheriff that you're voting in the town? Who's the county supervisor that you're about to vote in? Who's the school board that you're voting in? You just moved into whatever neighborhood that existed before you got there. Are you about to vote to make sure that, the charter schools that are there will offer enough slots to the residents and the kids that have been there this whole time? Okay, this neighborhood that you moved into that was already here, now they want to build a subway system, but you guys have an opportunity to vote on whether that stop will come to your neighborhood. And you know what it means? If the subway can get to your neighborhood, that means anybody can get there. Are you voting against it? That's what I want to see. That's, so the hashtag is cute, but a lot of the people who are doing these hashtags, that was beautiful. I love it. Symbolism is great. Symbolism is wonderful, but symbolism isn't tangible. So it's like, I would like to see where a lot of people stand in the polls. I would like to see where a lot of people just stand overall when it comes to integrity. And so, it's, I don't know, because I always think back to even like when the Trayvon Martin stuff happened, and then you saw the hashtag We Are Trayvon, and you saw a lot of people, posting pictures, and it could have been me, and I mean, it was everybody of all races, everything. But then when that verdict came out and Zimmerman got off, some of them same folks who had the hashtag, well, the evidence, that's what the evidence presented. We have to abide by the law. And you see a lot of people doing that even with Donald Trump shenanigans. Well, you have to respect the office of the presidency. And I'm like, the office of the presidency is protected by whiteness and white supremacy. So really what you're saying is you're content with what's going down because of the stature of what the office of the presidency holds. So you're willing to bypass whatever is offensive and whatever is detrimental to anybody just because, you want to respect the office of the presidency. So tell me what it is you really are respecting. That's all I want to know. You know what I mean? And it's crazy. And so for the people who are going to fight me, because believe it or not, there's a lot of people who are Trump supporters who follow me. I don't know why, but I guess y'all do y'all. Thank you for subscribing, I guess. They'll say, well, Trump is doing all these great things for the black community. Y'all just get off the plantation. And I just want to let you guys know, listen, I'm not like a Democratic disciple. I'm not a part of either party. I vote for what makes sense to me. But you know, the thing is, when people try to say, well, what has Trump done that's racist? I'm like, it's in the policy. It's in the appointments. It's in what you continue to see get cut. It's in what you see continue to get endorsed. It's in all of it. It's the people he surrounds himself with. It's the fact that, you know, people feel enabled and empowered now. That's probably, like, that's why you saw what happened at the Garlic Festival. They're now saying, okay, the person who went and shot 3 people, and mind you, the 3 people who got shot, you had a 6-year-old kid, you had a 17-year-old kid get shot, and you had a recent college graduate get shot. But, you know, it's been shown, like, this individual is from Nevada, and the last internet, you know, stuff that they were on was some white supremacy stuff. Like, so it's showing you where people are. Like, all of this just, it works in so many layers. And so, you know, I can get frustrated with Donald Trump and his statements, but I'm more frustrated at the people who continue to enable and just let all this happen. I'm more frustrated at the people who keep trying to tell me it's not a big deal or I'm overreacting. I'm more frustrated at the folks who are still supporting this, man. Like, really, at this point, if you're still supporting Donald Trump, it's because you're a passive racist and you're fine with, you know, racism as long as you can get a little piece of the pie. You know, and then there's that question of integrity. So, Donald Trump, and let's be honest, listen, if Donald Trump didn't have Secret Service, I bet you he wouldn't go to Baltimore and say that to the residents. There's that. Anyway. And by the way, you know what's also crazy while I'm at it? Because, you know, a few days ago would have been Emmett Till's 78th birthday. And I don't know if you saw the story with the students from Ole Miss University who went. I don't know if they were the ones who shot up the exhibit, but they had to literally take the Emmett Till, you know, there's like a plot that's there. They had to take it down because there were bullet holes in it. And these students stood in front of it with like guns and took pictures. Pretty much trolling. And that's where we're at right now in America. You have all of this stuff going on. And so the reason why you see so many black people always being extremely reactive, because they're frustrated. It's like for years we've been telling y'all what's going on in this country. Because I remember I used to get cussed out, especially when Obama was still in office. And everybody kept saying, we're post-racial. You bring up racism and you keep it alive every time you talk about it. You got to let that hurt go. It was in the past. And you're seeing it. And people just are blatantly, you know, they stand in how they feel. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, I don't even like going to Pentagon City Mall out here in D.C. because I know if I go to the food court, I'm going to see a bunch of teenagers in MAGA hats and it's going to drive me crazy. I'm like, let me order my clothes online because I don't want to be out here fighting kids. It's just crazy. 2020 will be interesting. I don't even know what's going to happen. I feel like Trump is about to be reelected anyway. I don't want to put that in the universe, but that's what it's looking like at the moment for me. But absolutely crazy. Anyway, I think we're going to go live this week or next week. Is it next week? I think next week. I'm not sure. We'll see. I'll update you guys. And yeah, share your 2 cents. I know we talked about a lot. This was a long video. But yes, condolences to the families affected by everything that happened with Garlic Fest. Absolutely crazy. It's like you can't go anywhere. You know what I mean? And there's so many of these mass shootings every day that society has grown numb to them. Like, it's like something that happened on a Monday and everybody's on to the next story on Tuesday because it's just so frequent now. Crazy. Anyway, I'm out. Share your 2 cents. Subscribe.
Just a sip of dynamite and I'm never giving up. Never giving up. Never giving up.